So the other night I was deep into my usual bedtime routine of doom scrolling, and I stumbled across this headline that said, "Did you know the last witch trial was in 1944? And I sat there like, huh? 1944? And in my mind, I was like, don't you mean 1644? Like, is this some kind of typo? Because wasn't World War II happening in 1944? Huh? Well, turns out, 1944, it was not a typo. So I checked, and the internet was correct. The last woman tried for being a witch was put in jail less than 100 years ago. Now, she was a stay-at-home psychic who knew government secrets and spread them to the people. And to this day, we don't know how she did it. Now, this witch led me down a whole witch rabbit hole, and I ended up learning more about like a subject that you guys have been honestly begging me to do since forever. You know, the Salem witch trials. So today, I'm here to set the record straight on the witches no one talks about, including one of the first ever witches in America and the very last witch. So welcome to the dark history of the witches who got away. Hi friends, I hope you are having a wonderful day today. My name is Bailey Sarian and I like to welcome you to my podcast, Dark History. Here we believe history does not have to be boring. It might be tragic, sometimes it's happy, but either way it's our dark history. Now before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm always posting new content, and let me know what you think down below in the comments section. I love hearing from you, and I read comments at the end. Plus, I want to know if you're watching over on YouTube, how do we look? Yeah, I know. I was included in the group chat this time, so we decided to go with a little theme. I'm giving, is it Sarah Plain and Tall? We're giving a cute look today, okay? We are. We got John Proctor, we got Susie Smith, and then we got me, Goody Sarian. We look so cute. I just, okay. Anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about the first witch trial in America. Now, it all started with a woman named Joan. I know, I was like, Joan reincarnated? I don't know, Joan. Well, this Joan her name was Joan Wright. She was a midwife, a healer, and worst of all, she was left-handed. Yep. Now listen, at the time, this was said to be the mark of the devil's secretaries, as they say. I guess in Latin, the word for right was dexter, as in dexterous, which meant skillful and blessed. And the word for left was sinister, as in sinister, cursed, evil. A little dramatic, okay? So Joan, she was left-handed, and it really didn't impact her life at first. She was born in England in 1580s, and she worked as a dairymaid. You know, and no one was ever bringing up hey, why are you milking that cow with your left hand? You know, no one really said anything. But she would spend a lot of her time churning butter, skimming milk, milking cows, making cheese. I don't know how you make, but you know, that's what she was doing. Now, I guess over time, Joan's butter hadn't been coming out quite right, and things were getting a little tense at work. It's like, Joan, what the fuck is up with your butter? So there was this one day where Joan, she's churning away while a woman shows up at her work asking for food. Okay, now back then, people were very paranoid that if you didn't give a beggar food, they might secretly be a witch who would then curse you. It's kind of Snow White-ish, you know? So people were a little freaked out by beggars and would always give them something, anything. You didn't want to curse. So Joan, she's churning her butter, and then she goes and she answers the door. But her boss was there. Her name was Dame. So very dramatic woman. She throws herself in front of the door and is like, Joan, wait. She might be a witch. She might be responsible for this terrible butter that you've been producing. So the two of them come up with a plan. The dame assumes that when the door opens, the beggar, aka secret witch, is going to try to get her spectral hand in Joan's butter and then curse it. Ooh. This part's a little funky, but this is what was said happened. As soon as the dame opens the door, she shouts at Joan to push down, like on her butter, hard. Okay. So you know that part of the, when you're churning butter, it's called a staff, you know? Very magical sounding, really. But I guess this move allegedly trapped the witch's spectral hand in the butter churn. Okay. Joan said in her diaries that this had like a crazy effect on the alleged witch. When this happened, the witch woman, she fell to her knees and begged for forgiveness. The woman said that her hand was indeed stuck inside the churn and she couldn't move it until like Joan lifted up her staff. Now the dame, she probably made the witch like swear to stop messing with their butter and to not come back. Now this whole event with the spectral witch hand, like it stuck with Joan. Traumatic moment, you know? Not only was it her first encounter with like an alleged witch, but in her mind, she had basically just used a butter churn to defeat Satan. You know, it's not really something you forget about. So fast forward, Joan moves to Virginia and she's in her late teens, like early 20s. Once she's there, Joan marries a tobacco planter, she becomes a mom, and she tries to settle down and live a nice little colonial life. But all of that weird butter witchcraft comes back to haunt her. So listen, if you're looking for something truly spooky this Halloween season, like the kind of scary where you're questioning your life choices, like the second you step in, then you have to check out Dark Harbor at the Queen Mary. Whoa. It's back, and it's absolutely terrifying. We're talking new haunted mazes that go through the actual Queen Mary ship, immersive add-on experiences, delicious food, and bars along with like secret speakeasies. Oh, carnival rides, and like so much more. Dark Harbor is one of the largest Halloween events in the country right in Long Beach at the world famous Queen Mary. If you're gonna be screaming for your life, screams for your life. And hey, if you're looking for something different, you can also hit up the Los Angeles Haunted Hayride and Halloween Festival for even more haunted house chaos. Ooh, now featuring an exclusive partnership with Elvira to bring you the new Elvira's Trick or Treat Mayhem Maze. Now I get it, listen, I get it. Not everyone wants to be chased by ghouls. If you're more like, Bailey, I love Halloween, but I also I don't like crying in public, then check out the brand new Magic of the Jack-O-Lanterns in Palos Ranchos. Over 10,000 hand-carved pumpkins, all glowing and gorgeous. The artistry, it's beautiful. So yeah, whatever your vibe, terrified or like cozy, spooky, LA has got you covered this season. All events are now open. By 1620, Joan is working as a midwife in Elizabeth City, Virginia, and she's living with her husband and their 2 kids. Apparently, Elizabeth City was not like a nice place at the time. People were getting murdered, there were diseases, just everywhere, and many were starving. Then in 1622, something horrible happens. A group of Native Americans went through Elizabeth City and killed over 300 colonists in one day. Now, it was brutal. It was bad. And the people who survived were very traumatized and very angry. The colonists, they couldn't accept that maybe they had brought this on themselves by, being assholes and taking someone else's land. So they decided the attack was the work of witchcraft. Makes sense, And it's a small town, so everyone's talking, and people started whispering about that left-handed midwife who lived up the street, Joan. She's left-handed. What's up with her? Now, the first guy to officially point the finger at Joan was this guy named Lieutenant Giles Allington. Now, Giles was rich. He was from a wealthy English family. He had over 100 acres of land. And despite all that, he was still an extremely insecure guy. First of all, it was said he couldn't shoot a deer to save his life, and it really pissed him off. So he started a rumor and told all of his friends that the deer, they were extra twitchy because they were bewitched. Yeah, obviously. He's like, that's why, you guys. It's not because I suck at hunting. It's because the deer are bewitched. So we already know that he was like the sort of guy looking to blame anyone but himself. Plus, Giles had a history with Joan. I guess Giles had originally hired Joan as a midwife for his pregnant wife. But when his wife found out that Joan was left-handed, I guess she like freaked the F out. So, she's like, you need to get rid of her. That is Satan right there. So Giles, I guess, just fully like he goes to Joan and he like silently lets her go, and he finds another midwife for the job instead. Which, fine, okay, but rude. Now, a few months later, his wife developed an abscess, and Giles got really sick, and I guess their baby died at just like 4 months old. So, who did they blame? Any guesses? No, not germs, not bacteria, not the lack of medical knowledge or anything like that. Witches. Yeah, witches. Specifically, Joan, the midwife who he let go. Maybe she was mad that she got fired. Unfortunately, Joan also had a second job that put a bit of a target on her back. She was also a fortune teller. So everyone was like, okay, they're doing the math. They're like, she's left-handed and she's a fortune teller. I mean, come on, that's a witch. It's her. So Virginia was a colony, so it was operating under England's laws, which included the 1604 Witchcraft Act. Now, this act was passed by King James himself, who was obsessed with witchcraft and demonology. He even wrote a whole book about it. And this act made it illegal to, quote, consult, employ, or reward any evil and wicked spirit, end quote. And it banned anything from casting spells to using the bones of the dead in magic. Under this law, Joan was, arrested, and she was like being put up on trial. Looking at it now, she was really being put on trial for being different and a little outspoken. I guess she was the type of woman who would say things that no one wanted to hear. Like, people would come to her and ask about their marriage, and she'd be like, you'll be the one burying him. Kind of dark. People wanted to hear something positive, Am I gonna marry you rich? She's like, no, you're gonna be the one burying him, actually. And then the spookier part was that Joan would be right. So this would freak people out even more. So on September 11th, 1626, Virginia's General Court assembled for a witch trial against Joan. A woman who was left-handed and predicted the future a little too well. So she's put on trial, right? But then here's the weird part. We know the names of the men who put her on trial, but then after that, the records just stop. We don't know the verdict. We don't know the outcome. We don't know what happened. It's like someone or something didn't want us to know what happened next. Sure, maybe Joan was just a misunderstood midwife caught up in the crossfire of paranoia, or maybe, I don't know, maybe she was just good at making good guesses. Maybe she was a witch, whatever. What we do know is that Joan walked free. Which you probably already know from if you watched our last witch episode we did on dark history, or if you read The Crucible in 9th grade, or you learned about the Salem witch trials in school, you know that letting people go was rare. They didn't do that, okay? So it was odd. And no one knows why. I was like, maybe she had dirt on everyone. Maybe she was gonna blackmail their ass. Maybe, I don't know. But then I don't know. It's possible that the court decided she was ultimately maybe too valuable to lock up, because at the time midwives, they were pretty rare. And even if she was a witch, Joan didn't just get to skip away like nothing happened. Her freedom definitely came at a price. Her family had to live with this horrible reputation forever, and her life was never the same. Her husband had to get like special permission to relocate the family to another city because life was just so rough after the trial. So Joan and her family ended up moving to Jamestown, Virginia, where they had to rebuild their lives basically from nothing. Now, Miss Joan Wright became the first woman officially tried for witchcraft in America. And the crazy thing is, she wasn't even convicted as far as we know, and her life, though, was still destroyed. But at least she wasn't hanged or burned at the stake. I mean, she wasn't thrown in the river with like a Bible tied to her ankle. She wasn't even locked up. So for a left-handed fortune teller, especially at that time, I'd say she did pretty well. And then she just flew right under the radar of history. You ever walk into a glasses store and immediately feel like either you're gonna leave broke or just like accept that like you can't see, you know? The affordable styles made me look like a granny. Not that that's bad, but I don't want to look like that. And then the cute ones, they cost more than my rent. And then you have to pick just one pair to wear every day. Just one, okay? I mean, it's stressful. But Warby Parker changed all that. Warby Parker offers affordable, high-quality glasses, sunglasses, and contacts. I finally decided to give them a try. I did their online quiz, which suggested some styles for me. They're like, hey, your head is big, so like try these ones. And then I did the home try-on where they send you 5 frames for free to try on at home. So like no pressure, no salespeople being like, those look great on you, you look incredible. No bad lighting. It's just you getting to decide like, do I like these? I ended up picking the Welty in Whiskey Tortoise. I like them. They feel solid. Like they're good. They don't feel cheap at all. I got like the blue light blocking ones and they're anti-reflective. It has like a coating on it and it actually works. So you can like film under lights without catching a weird glare, And it was only $95. Yeah. I mean, come on, glasses are expensive. And here's the best part. If you grab 2 or more pairs, you save 15%. So yeah, I was like, okay, I'll get 2 pairs because options. Yeah. And if you change your mind, free returns, 30 days. 0 risk, all reward. I use Warby Parker and you should too. Warby Parker has over 300 locations to help you find your next pair of glasses. You can also head over to warbyparker.com/darkhistory right now to try on any pair virtually. I know it's the future, baby. That's warbyparker.com/darkhistory. warbyparker.com/darkhistory. Okay, so when I say witch trials, I know your brain immediately goes to Salem. Pilgrims, Puritans, the woods, the Crucible. Did you watch that with Winona Ryder in a bonnet? And we all think the Salem witch trials started with some like Puritan girls freaking out in Massachusetts, right? But what if I told you the whole thing may have actually started with a woman from the Caribbean? This woman's name was Tituba. Now, in a lot of these historical records, Tituba is described as Black, but her background was probably more complex, like a mix of African, Indigenous, South American, and Caribbean. It's possible she was originally from South America, where she might have been kidnapped by Catholic missionaries, forced to be baptized, and then renamed. But it's hard to know for sure. What we do know is that when Tituba was really young, she wound up in Barbados. Now, Barbados is in the Caribbean, and, it was not a vacation destination back then. In the 1600s, Barbados was the capital of the British slave trade. So most of the people living there were wealthy white men or enslaved people who were working on their sugar plantations. It was just a really brutal, violent place to be. Tituba is like a little toddler. She's in the Barbados, and I guess she ends up getting like snatched up to work on one of these sugar plantations. Now, at some point, she starts working for a businessman named Samuel Paris. Samuel turned out to not be a great businessman, and he ended up leaving Barbados totally broke, but not empty-handed, because he took Tituba with him. And guess where he settled down? Salem, Massachusetts. Now, this is how Tituba comes to be the only enslaved person of color working in this town, working for Samuel. Samuel ends up becoming the reverend in Salem, and he's like the moral hall monitor of the town. Now, he was always preaching about purity, staying free from sin, and how everyone else needed to get their act together. Cover your ankles, you slut. So he is like Mr. Moral Police, right? Even though he himself had like no problem doing a little human trafficking, but everyone else is a problem, okay? And he was there to protect them and guide them. Now, Reverend Paris was very obsessed with optics, you know, how he appeared to the town. He wanted his family to appear as this perfect, model Puritan family that the whole church could look up to. So everything's great, right? No, it's not, Bailey. Which is why it was incredibly embarrassing when his very own daughter and his niece claimed to be possessed. So fast forward like a couple of years. We're there. Tituba is living in Salem. She's working in the home of Reverend Samuel Paris. And by this point, you know, Samuel has a wife, and he also has a young daughter named Betty. Also living with him is his niece, Abigail. So Tituba, she was like the one raising the girls, you know? So it's 1692 and it's wintertime. And people really aren't, they're not living comfortable lives in America, okay? There's barely any food. No one is great at farming this new land. So people are hungry. And when you're hungry, they're getting angry. On top of all of this, you know, the people are Puritans. And when you're a Puritan, you're very religious, like to the extreme. I mean, they literally left England because their religious views were too extreme for mainstream society. So they were paranoid, extremely religious, hungry, cold, bored, desperate, right? So at this point, this is when like Samuel Paris's daughter, Betty, and his niece, Abigail, they suddenly start behaving oddly, like they were possessed. They were screaming, convulsing, claiming that there were things no one could see hurting them. Oh God. They probably just had like a migraine. You ever get really hungry and like thirsty and you get a bad migraine and you're just like kind of screaming and like something's hurting you and you don't know what it is because it's a migraine? I wonder if they thought about that. And that's not the point though. So this is happening. Migraines, huh? They'll get you. So when Daddy Samuel asked the children, like, who is behind all of this? Who's doing this to you? Where is this coming from? They point to Tituba. It's like, oh no. So this is where you would like expect, you know, something terrible to happen, right? Like Tituba get dragged into court and for a man in one of those like curly white wigs to sentence her to be like burned alive. But Tituba, she wasn't going down without a fight. People of Salem are accusing Tituba of witchcraft, which was essentially like a one-way ticket to the noose. But Tituba knew what was up, okay? And she wasn't just gonna stand there and let these people tell her what she did. So she's thinking, and she's thinking fast. Now, instead of denying it, like most of us would do, I'm not a witch. No, I like to go outside sometimes. I don't know. She's like, no, I'm not doing that. And she gives them everything. She goes all in. She does exactly what she knows they want her to do. So they're making these accusations. You're a witch. And she's like, yes. And she starts talking about how she saw strange animals like wolves, birds, and even a hairy creature that walked like a man. She's like, are they believing me? Yeah? Okay. It was crazy. You should have been there. She tells them, the devil came to me and he had a book with names in it. She then tells them that she saw other women in the village sign their names in the book in blood. Oh, yes. And she's like, but I didn't sign it. I saw them do it, but I said, no, I'm not signing that. That's crazy. No, but I saw them do it. Then she tells them, because she's like, oh, plus I saw a lot more, you guys. Just wait. You know what else I saw? I saw these women flying in the air. Yeah, you guys are all asleep. The women are out there flying in the air. And then to top it off, guess what? These women, they bewitched the children. That's right. It was me. I saw all this. So everyone's losing their minds. They're like, oh my God, what? What is happening? Flying in the air? Signing a book in blood? What is happening in this town? And like low key, and this is why I love Tituba, she's like, look, if I'm going down, you bitches are going down with me, okay? Yeah, I saw these hoes flying in the air, and I saw demons, and I saw blood and stuff. Yep. You're not gonna blame me. I'm not going down for you dumbasses. I churn your butter, okay? You need me. And I love her for it, because she's like, you're all coming down with me. This whole situation was, it was pretty cinematic. It was very theatrical. And the Puritan authorities were eating it up. They were sitting there like, what? I knew it. There's proof now that Satan is here. And to them, Tituba was like backing them up and proving that, they were right to be paranoid. And maybe you haven't caught on by now, but Tituba, she wasn't possessed. And she wasn't confessing to anything. She was playing the game, okay? And she was performing. She was storytelling, and she was giving them what they want, okay? She knew what these people wanted from her, and she knew how they viewed her. So she was like, you know what? You want a show? Fine, buckle up. Bitches be flying. But maybe you're thinking, Bailey, how was she so good at thinking up of like all these strange stories on the fly? Well, our expert for this episode, Marian Gibson, points out that a lot of these images of the animals and the devil probably came from stories that Tituba was told when she was young, growing up. And she knew all about the devil because she was raised with religion. Once Tituba dropped the fact that she had seen other women in the village signing the devil's book, she had them eating out of the palm of her hand. They were like, Tituba, who was it? Tell us, who signed the devil's book? Now, one thing about, working for everyone in this town was that Tituba overheard a lot of gossip. So, she had some things, she knew some shit. So Tituba, she already knew who Reverend Paris didn't like, and she just leaned into that. So she started naming those people. She's like, yeah, your neighbor, Sarah Smith, I saw her do it. Yeah. Remember that guy who did bad tiling in your bathroom? That guy. I saw him. Remember that woman who just spoke? She did it. So Tituba is just naming all these people. And after this, witch accusations started to spread like wildfire. People used any grudge they had been holding on to as an excuse to claim witch. And everyone just turned on each other. Remember when Sarah borrowed your stockings and didn't give them back? Witch. Remember when Abigail bit into an apple funny and we were like, ew, witch. Remember that one time when Susie overslept? Witch. Or if someone coughed funny? Witch. It was crazy. They were bored. They needed a hobby. I don't think coloring was invented yet. So, technically, Tituba had confessed. She handed the court this incredible demonic fever dream story of blood oaths, a man in black, the devil, flying people. She was technically guilty, but she doesn't get executed. Instead, the court keeps her around because her confession was useful and she was full of valuable information. She was given names. She was talking. So Tituba is put in jail. Now, jail sucks. Awful place to be. You're chained up. It's cold. It's awful, whatever. But at this point, it was better to be in jail than outside because at this point, the witch trials, it was out of control. It was spiraling. Dozens of people were getting accused. Neighbors were turning on each other. Children were testifying against their parents. Yeah, it was insane. And then the executions began. So people, were being put to death for witchcraft. And Tituba, she's over there like just flying under the freaking radar. Now, I thought like maybe her boss / trafficker, Reverend Paris, would bail her out, but no. He was too busy defending his own role in this disaster. He was trying to keep his job, his reputation, and his neck. So he doesn't visit, he doesn't pay to get her out, he does not care. Now, the weird thing is, we don't know exactly what happened to Tituba next, because eventually someone, an unnamed person, pays her jail fees. Someone pays to get her out, and she gets out, and then she just disappears from the record. Boof. Gone. Good for her. I mean, no one writes about what happened to her after. There's no trial transcript. There's no execution notice, no burial even. It's very interesting. Some scholars believe that she was sold again. Others think that she may have died shortly after the release. I like to think she made it out of there and she just like laid low and went off and started somewhere else. Some people say Tituba was just like, the servant girl who told the girls scary stories. But the truth is, Tituba was scapegoated simply because she was different and she was smart enough to dodge a crazy bullet. And that's where you get a little torn, because like I respect what she did. Like she was looking out for herself and she was like, I'm not going down. You're all going down with me. Like, F you guys. But at the same time, she did unleash like this monsoon of hate that had just been like building up in Salem for years. I think it would have happened regardless, because like at the end of the day in Salem, a total of 25 people died as a result of the witchcraft hysteria that started in Reverend Paris's house. 20 were executed, 19 of those were hanged, and one person was pressed to death with stones. And then there were 5 people who died in prison while awaiting trial. The last thing I'll say about Tituba that makes me feel like she was special is her name. Historians have apparently searched high and low, digging through dusty records, and guess what? Nothing. No other Titubas exist, which made her records really stand out and really obvious when she vanished from them completely. You know that game, like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? It's like, where in the world is Tituba? I would love to know, like, what happened to her? What happened to her? We don't know. The end. The other day I was brushing my teeth, as one does, minding my own business, and when you're brushing and you hit a spot and you're like, uh-oh, and you brush it again and you're like, uh-oh, is that a cavity? And it's like, damn, when was the last time I went to the dentist? It's been a while, maybe like 2 years, maybe more, I don't know. So I stood there and I kept brushing, the situation thinking maybe I'll brush the cavity away. Yeah, I don't know. And then just move on. But of course, it doesn't work like that. So I was like, okay, I need to stop putting this off and I need to just find a freaking dentist who will take my insurance. And it's a whole thing. But that's why I love ZocDoc. I love ZocDoc. I've been using it for years, okay? And you need to get on it, okay? Because it's a free app and website that helps you find high quality in-network doctors, and you can book appointments instantly. You don't have to call around. You don't have to figure out, do you even take my insurance? Leave voicemails? You don't have to deal with any of that, okay? You do it all through the app. You can even filter in the ZocDoc app by like what you actually care about. Like doctors that obviously take your insurance, are located nearby, have great reviews, speak your language, or even have appointments this week. You can pick the one you like, see their real-time availability, and then on the app, you just click and you book. I love it. Appointments can happen fast too, like within 24 to 72 hours, sometimes even faster. I love ZocDoc. I use it and you should too. So listen, stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/darkhistory to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/darkhistory. ZocDoc.com/darkhistory. Let's jump ahead a couple hundred years to 1897. On November 25th in Callander, Scotland, a girl named Helen Duncan was born. Now, right from the beginning, Helen, she was not like other kids. She was like a Scottish Wednesday Addams. Pugsley, what you doing today? How was that? Anyway, Helen's different, okay? Like, she's really into spooky stuff. And from a young age, she starts telling people that she can see things that no one else can. Like ghosts, shadows, stuff like that. Classic horror movie stuff. And, Helen is like really passionate about this. So she's seen shit. And once she's grown up and she gets married to like this very sweet, supportive war vet named Henry, she decides to become a stay-at-home medium. So it's the 1920s. Now at this point, World War I had just ended and it really hit the country hard. But for Helen, it was kind of perfect for her business. So Helen, she starts offering seances and fortune telling out of her home. So people, who they're grieving and they're desperate for answers and closure. They had lost their sons, their husbands, their brothers. They're all coming because they want answers, closure. And spiritualism was booming because people were desperate for just that, connection and closure. So Helen would be like, oh, I actually spoke to your husband, John, yesterday. He says to stop crying. And also, he misses that soup you make. You should keep making that soup. Maybe sell it. I don't know. He also said you need to clean up a little bit. The house is looking like a mess. Thanks, babe. So she's doing these seances. She's claiming to bring back voices from the trenches. And people were, they were eating it up. And I don't blame them. When you lose someone, you just want that closure. So Helen, she was famous for having these spirit guides who would lead her to her clients' loved ones. And I guess one of them was this sassy dead nurse who spoke through Helen. Like a puppet. They're in there. You get it. Okay. Now here's the thing. Helen wasn't just saying like super vague stuff like, your husband loves you, She would actually like name names. She would give dates. She would mention nicknames, things that were not public knowledge. And the people were very impressed. So of course, people are talking and her side hustle is taking off. She wasn't just some, weirdo telling fortunes out of her kitchen. She was the go-to woman you went to when you needed to hear from the other side. So she's got like loyal clients and business is booming because grief, sadly, is everywhere. Now, Scotland isn't that big and eventually Helen, she starts to outgrow it. So she packs up, she grabs her supportive husband, and they move to England. So once she's there, Helen immediately starts performing seances for dozens of people at a time. But she starts to realize that she can't just rely on like her voice and, a couple of flickering candles anymore. In these bigger cities, people wanted a show and a little bit more proof. Like they wanted a ghost to like high five them or something, So Helen probably thinks to herself, how do I give them something that they will never forget? Ectoplasm. Yeah. I know. I was like, what's that? To me, I was thinking ectoplasm was something that comes out when you give birth. It's not that, Bailey. Yay. Ectoplasm was really hot in the world of spiritualism at the time. And listen, it's weird. It was basically believed to be like ghost gunk. It was like a supernatural substance that would quote unquote ooze from the medium's body. Like it would come out from the nose, the mouth, any available hole at the time. And this would happen during a seance. So this ooze would come out, allegedly float around the room, and sometimes like morph into something like a face or a hand. before going back into the medium's body when the seance ended. Yeah, it's giving flubber. Now, we don't know exactly when or how Helen made the leap to ectoplasm, so we can only guess. Most likely Helen saw like another medium use it and she was like, oh, I gotta do that shit too. Like, that's pretty sick. So she was like inspired, but it was like a thing at the time. So now she was like, it was part of her show. She claimed it was the literal fabric of the spirit world. So she would do this whole thing, the whatever. The crowds were very impressed. I mean, it flowed out of her mouth into the dark rooms. It became faces. People lost their freaking minds. The ectoplasm became Helen's trademark, and it really made her a star. And of course, it's also the thing that will lead to her downfall. So now, it's 1941. There's another world war happening, which is everyone's nightmare. I mean, they had just gotten through World War I, you know? Damn, another? Yeah. But then, on November 25th, 1941, the Germans torpedoed a huge British battleship called the HMS Barham. On this battleship, there were over 800 sailors on board, and the whole ship goes up in flames and sinks like within minutes. Everyone was killed. It was tragic. It was a huge tragedy. But at the time, the British government, they decide to cover it up. The news was like extremely censored, especially when it came to any type of military stuff. So they don't announce it to the public, not at all. It's a total secret, so no one really knows, okay? Now, cut to a few weeks later. It's early December, and our girl Helen is doing a seance in a town called Portsmouth, which is like right near a major naval base. So the seance is going, you know, normal seance, when all of a sudden, Helen stops. And she says, a sailor is trying to come through. She's like, I'm getting something. A spirit sailor. So Helen starts channeling the spirit of a man in uniform who said he had just died on the HMS Barham. What? Now listen, the people in the room, including mothers and wives of naval officers, are like, wait, what? People are freaking out because the sailor tells Helen, and then Helen tells everyone in the room that the HMS Barham sank. Remember, people didn't even know about this yet. This wasn't public information. So this is like, whoa, what? So somehow, the British government got wind of this and basically went, okay, how does a middle-aged Scottish woman know our secrets? How does she know about this? So British intelligence, they start freaking out. Okay, no one was supposed to know. So they're thinking like, is she a fraud who has access to someone in the military who's like giving her information? Did she overhear it somewhere? Is she a spy? You know? Or worst case scenario, is she like a national security risk dressed like a medium? So the British police, they decide to go undercover and they buy tickets to Helen's seances. Yeah, it sounds like part of a sitcom someone needs to write. Does it? Yeah, it's kind of funny. Not really. Is it? Kinda. I don't know. Let me know. Yeah, so the British police, you know, they're going undercover to watch Helen's seances, okay? They're like, we need to know what the hell is going on with this woman. And then, instead of like investigating where she's like getting her information from, or I don't know, just like knocking on her door and asking her questions, instead, they conduct a full-blown raid. Yeah, at one of her shows. So the police, they get in there, they pull back all the curtains. Oh, get on the ground! Drop the crystal ball now! Slap that ectoplasm back in your mouth! Wench! They're searching the place, but they don't find anything suspicious. Plus, it's like, what are you guys looking for exactly? Except, what they do find is Helen covered in her signature ectoplasm. I don't know. I think they just needed something because they see her with like the ectoplasm or whatever, and they're like, that's enough. And they decide to arrest her that very same night. They're like, that shit's weird. You're arrested. And guess what they charge her with? I know. I was thinking fraud, espionage, I don't know. Anything related to like government secrets she was leaking. No. They go full-blown Salem 2.0 and prosecute Helen under the Witchcraft Act of 1735. Yeah, in the middle of World War II. While Hitler is literally like blitzing London, British officials are leading a witch hunt. It's kind of weird. I was like, aren't there other things to worry about here, you guys? No? Okay. The trial kicked off in 1944, and it was weird. Helen was accused of pretending to summon the dead to deceive His Majesty's subjects. Now, the courtroom became like a total media circus. People were obsessed with this case. Helen, she had a super loyal fan base, and they were livid that this was happening to her. Meanwhile, I guess military officials were just like freaked out by her. And then the government, they're trying really hard to not look like they're prosecuting a woman for being like psychic during a war. Now, some reporters were calling her a fraud. Others said it was like a classic case of female hysteria. And others were just there for the show, I guess. Helen's defense team was led by a guy named Charles Loosby. Now, he was a former member of parliament, and his stance was basically, are you guys like seriously doing this right now? Are we doing this right now? Like, this is a serious waste of resources. Now, Charles claimed Helen never intended to deceive because she 100% believed in her powers. And under the law, intention is what matters. He also told the court there really was a spirit world, so she was right to believe in her skills. But the prosecution was like not having it. They brought in doctors to testify about the ectoplasm, which, spoiler alert, turned out to be not what you think it is, okay? I was imagining, again, flubber, goo, remember slime, Play-Doh, I don't know. Turned out to be a nasty combination of cheesecloth or tissues soaked in eggs or egg white. I was very confused by this because, look, if you're an audience member and you see this, it doesn't even look like goo. It looks like a tablecloth, okay? So I was like, people thought this was like real goo? Whatever. But it was revealed that, you know, it was cheesecloth. Whatever that is. Anyways, I guess Helen, she would like put it in her mouth and like barf it up on command during the seances and then slurp it back into her mouth before the lights came up. She's kind of doing the most. And because of this whole reveal, it poked like a big fat hole in the defense. Because if Helen was like DIYing her ectoplasm, then to them, everything else must have been a lie too. The prosecution said Helen was manipulating vulnerable people, taking their grief and turning it into a ticketed ghost show. Helen's team argued this was less about fraud and more about the British government trying to shut her up because she was, you know, too accurate with her wartime revelations. I mean, the government didn't publicly announce the HMS Barham's sinking for months after it happened. So to most people, it really did look like the government was just butthurt that someone was keeping the public informed. At the end of the day, the jury didn't convict her of all the charges. They let the state secret stuff slide, but they still found her guilty of pretending to conjure spirits under the Witchcraft Act. And Helen Duncan was sentenced to 9 months in Holloway Prison. The conviction sparked even more outrage. People were like, hey, aren't we in the middle of a war with like Nazis? You know, don't we have bigger fish to fry? You know, your big national security risk is a psychic war widow whisperer. And honestly, like, if she is a psychic, why don't you use her to like win the war? I don't know. Maybe she could help. Just a thought. When she was sentenced, though, Helen broke down in court and she begged them not to send her to prison because she said the spirits warned her that she would die behind bars. And sure enough, when she was in prison, her health collapsed. She didn't die, though. So she was wrong there. Doesn't really help her story, but whatever. She didn't die. Okay, that's great. But her health did, go downhill. Thankfully, she got out early in 1945. And rumor has it, she believed in her powers until the very end and continued contacting spirits. Quietly, of course, until she died 11 years later in 1956. Her family and her fans always believed that the government killed her, not directly, but by publicly humiliating her, locking her up, and just breaking her spirit. Now, Helen's trial was the last of its kind, because in 1951, that crusty, dusty Witchcraft Act that took her down was finally repealed. In hindsight, Helen's trial became this weird, embarrassing moment for the British justice system that everyone could pretty much admit was insane. Even Winston Churchill allegedly called the whole thing tomfoolery. To this day, spiritualist groups still fight to clear Helen Duncan's name. They say she was the last victim of the centuries-old fear of women who were different. Someone who had power that couldn't be measured in a lab. I mean, besides the whole ectoplasm thing, she was, I think she could see some shit. How'd she know about the ship? I'll believe it. I believe her. Stories about people like Joan, Helen, and Tituba, they make you realize that women are always taking the hit for a problem that is so much bigger than them. People are always looking for someone to blame, and unfortunately, it's always a fucking woman, huh? We're just out here minding our business, churning butter. Next thing you know, you're a witch. You're like, what the fuck? God damn it. At the end of the day, I feel like instead of people just looking internally at themselves, that maybe you're the problem, instead, people like to point the finger at someone else and call them a witch, because then they don't have to face the real issue. It's a lot easier. I mean, when things go wrong, someone's got to take the blame. Not I, of course. And it's way easier to call, your neighbor a witch than fix your own mess. What a journey that was, huh? Witches. I mean, we can talk on and on and on about the witch trials because there were so many people involved. And we did do another Dark History episode about witches. I would check that one out too. But what a wild time, huh? Jeez. Minding your business, next thing you know, you're a witch and you're being burned at the stake? Lame. I'd be so pissed. Couldn't do anything then. Jeez. Yeah. Anyways, next week, our next episode, we're going on another journey. And it's going to be cold. So pack your mittens. We're going to a place where planes vanish without a trace. Entire groups of people walk into the wilderness and are never seen again. This area is crawling with strange energy, magnetic anomalies, and more missing people cases than anywhere else. Locals say don't go in. The government says nothing at all. Next time on Dark History, we're diving into the eerie, the unexplained, the weird world of the Alaska Triangle. Bum, bum, bum. Ding! Now, I'd love to hear your guys' reactions to today's story, so make sure to leave a comment below so I can see what you guys are saying, and your comment might even be featured in a future episode. Now, let's read a couple of comments that you guys have left me. Hot Redhead Wife, left us a comment saying, quote, "Your videos give my bed rot days a sense of productivity," end quote. Hot Redhead Wife, love your username. And listen, we all love a good bed rot day, but don't do it too much, okay? Don't bed rot all the time. That's not good for you. Make sure to go outside sometimes too, okay? But I'm glad you can learn something, maybe a little weird, a little twisted, something unusual. I love that you can kind of learn while you're bed rotting, but don't get sucked into the bed rot era and just never leave your bed, okay? Okay? Make sure to go outside, get some fresh air, okay? But I appreciate you for watching and learning. It's fun. Learning, fun. Bed rot, fun. Kinda. Okay. Alicia Taylor 973 commented on our bodybuilding episode saying, quote, "My great-great-grandfather was a strongman and acrobat for a circus here in Australia. I can't remember the name of this circus. I think he performed until he went to World War I and performed on and off over the years. My mom said even when he was elderly, he could do the whole ladder balancing act and would do it for the great-grandkids just for fun." Wow. Alicia, that is so cool. I love that. Because you just don't meet people like that these days who like performed in the circus or acrobats or strongmen, you know? I mean, personally, there are some days where I can barely touch my toes. You know, we did an episode on circuses back in season 1. Damn, which is like crazy to think that was a long time ago. But we did one in season 1. You should go back and watch that if you haven't, because P.T. Barnum and Bailey was wild. But I love that story. That's cool. Because you just don't hear that often, you know? Do you have any pictures to share? We'd love to see some pictures. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Tell the family hi. And hi, Australia. Thanks for watching. Catherine Amdison 2973 gave us an episode suggestion. Bailey, you should do an episode on the dark history of the Appalachian Mountains. That place seems hella spooky, and so many weird things seem to be happening, end quote. You know, I've thought about this, but I have a hard time saying Appalachian Mountains. So I was like, damn, it'd be a struggle episode. But I was on TikTok the other day, and I kept seeing like all these spooky, scary stories about the Appalachian Mountains, and it did get me wondering, like, what's going on over there? Also, I watched this devastating documentary about how a lot of the people who live there have, there's like a big opioid problem. I know that's kind of taken like a left turn here, but, and how like, there's just a lot of people out there struggling, and it's sad. It's sad. But also, I guess spooky too. Oh God. I think it's a good idea. Like there's definitely something there, and also we've never talked about it. And yeah, I think it's a good idea. Thank you for the suggestion. I'll look into it. Maybe I'll try and look at the spooky stuff and not the sad, like everyone's on opioids and dying side. Well, you can look into that too. Anyways, you got me going. So let me marinate on it and see what I can put together, okay? Thank you for the suggestion, and I appreciate you for watching. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. We did it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. Keep on commenting, because maybe your comment will be featured. Also, did you know you can join me over on my YouTube, where you can actually watch these episodes on Thursday after the podcast airs. Plus, you can come see how cute we all look. Come on, we look so cute. And while you're there, you can also catch my murder, mystery, and makeup. So don't forget to subscribe. And hey, if you don't know, Dark History is an Audio Boom original. I want to give a special thank you to our expert, Professor Marian Gibson, author of Witchcraft, A History in 13 Trials. And I'm your host, Bailey Sarian. I hope you have a good day today, you make good choices, and I'll be talking to you guys later. Goodbye.